From trust to destruction. The final choice between power, survival, and the cost of everything lost. Alex stood in the shadowed alley, the city around him decaying as his own life had. Once a trusted special agent, he'd been framed, his career destroyed, and his reputation tarnished by a scandal he didn't commit. Alone and betrayed, he spent months plotting revenge, not only on those who framed him, but on a system that had turned its back on him. Then Sophia appeared, an invitation to join her organization, a chance to regain what he'd lost, and maybe even more. Revenge. Sophia was the leader of a powerful criminal organization, pulling the strings in a world where power was the only thing that mattered. Her offer was simple: help her execute her plans, and in return, she'd help him exact vengeance on the people who had ruined him. Alex had nothing left but his desire for payback, and the offer was too tempting to pass up. Sophia wasn't just a leader, she was a master manipulator, controlling everyone around her with ruthless precision. Her beauty masked a sharp, calculating mind. She knew how to use people, how to make them feel important while keeping them under her thumb. To Alex, she was both a means to an end and someone to watch closely. He wasn't naive enough to trust her, but her power made her indispensable. "You've been through a lot, haven't you, Alex?" Sophia's voice cut through the silence one evening as she approached him in her office. Her eyes were cold, assessing, as if seeing through the walls Alex had built around himself. "I've had my share," Alex replied, voice steady, betraying none of the anger bubbling beneath the surface. Sophia leaned forward slightly, her gaze never leaving his. "I know what it's like to be cast aside, to have everything ripped away from you. I understand your pain, but here, you can have power. You can have revenge." Her words were smooth, carefully calculated, each one wrapping around Alex's mind like a spider's web. "And what do you want in return?" Alex asked, eyes narrowing with suspicion. There was always a catch, and he was determined to find it. Sophia's smile was faint but cold. "Loyalty," she said simply. "I want you to help me, and in return, I will help you get everything back. You'll have your revenge. You'll have the justice that was stolen from you." It was tempting. Too tempting. Alex had no illusions about Sophia. He knew she was offering power, but he also knew she was using him. He could feel the weight of her words, and for the first time in a long time, the idea of taking control of his own destiny seemed possible. But there was a danger here, one that Alex couldn't quite shake. Alex quickly settled into his new role within Sophia's organization. Her network was vast, influencing everything from the underworld to politics. She didn't need to ask for loyalty, it was demanded, and those who didn't comply were swiftly dealt with. For Alex, this was more than just a job. It was a chance to strike back at those who had wronged him. He didn't trust Sophia, but in a world of manipulation and deceit, trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. Sophia was a master at playing people, keeping them on a short leash without them realizing it. She would smile, make you feel important, then use you when it suited her. Alex had seen it firsthand, and he knew that if he wasn't careful, he would become just another pawn in her game. "You're not like the others," Sophia commented one evening as they reviewed plans for an operation. "You don't bend easily." Alex met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "I don't trust easily either," he replied. He had seen enough of people like her, charming, manipulative, and always hiding their true intentions. Sophia chuckled softly, a sound that sent a chill down his spine. "You'll learn to trust me, Alex. Everyone does in the end." But Alex wasn't so sure. He watched her closely, studying how she dealt with people, how she made them feel powerful, only to discard them when they were no longer useful. He knew she was playing a game, but the question was, where did he fit into it? Was he just another tool for her, or was there something more? Then came the first attack. It started as small disruptions, sabotage shipments, mysterious delays, whispers of betrayal within the ranks. At first it seemed like a minor inconvenience, but it quickly escalated into something much larger. A key location was hit hard, and the organization was thrown into chaos. It was clear someone inside was working against them. Sophia summoned Alex to her office, her face expressionless as she handed him a file. We've been compromised. Someone in our ranks is leaking information. I need you to find the traitor, she said flatly. Alex glanced at the file before looking back at her. Why didn't you see this coming? He asked, his voice sharp with suspicion. How do we know you're not the one behind it? Sophia's eyes darkened, and for a moment Alex saw something flicker in them. Anger, maybe, or frustration. You can doubt me all you want, Alex, but I'm asking you to do your job. Find the traitor before they destroy us. Alex nodded, but inside a voice whispered that something wasn't right. The attack didn't feel like an external threat. It felt too coordinated, too precise, and Sophia, with all her power and resources, should have seen it coming. Was she hiding something? Or worse, was she orchestrating it? As Alex delved deeper into the investigation, his suspicions grew. He started noticing inconsistencies in the reports, small things that didn't add up. Why was Sophia so calm, almost too calm about the sabotage? He began to see cracks in the facade. She was a master manipulator, but was she being manipulated herself? Or worse, was she the mastermind behind it all? Alex knew he had to find the truth, but as he dug deeper, he realized that it wasn't just the traitor he needed to worry about. There was something much bigger at play, something that involved him far more than he had ever imagined. And the more he uncovered, the more he realized that trust, in this world, was nothing more than a fleeting illusion. The deeper he went, the more dangerous the game became. Was Sophia truly the victim, or was she playing a much larger role in the chaos? Alex had to find out before it was too late, but with every new revelation, he couldn't help but wonder. Would the truth bring him closer to his goal, or destroy everything he had worked for? Sophia's calm demeanor never wavered as Alex continued his investigation, but the cracks in the organization were beginning to show. The trust he had placed in her was slowly crumbling, replaced by doubt and suspicion. And as the attacks continued, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle wasn't against the traitor in the organization, but against the one person he had come to rely on, Sophia herself. Alex sat alone in his apartment, the dim light from a flickering lamp casting harsh shadows on the wall. His mind raced, sifting through the clues that had surfaced in the wake of the recent attacks on Sophia's organization. What had initially seemed like a random string of incidents was beginning to feel like something far more deliberate. There was a traitor in their midst, and Alex had every intention of finding out who it was. The first sign had come when Alex intercepted an encrypted message meant for one of the high-ranking members of the organization. The code was sophisticated, but Alex had seen enough encrypted comms in his time as a special agent to recognize its patterns. He had decrypted it and found a set of instructions, orders for a sabotage operation on one of the organization's primary warehouses. The message was signed with a code Alex had seen before, a name that wasn't supposed to be in the fold. Luca. Luca, Alex muttered to himself, his brow furrowing as he leaned closer to the screen. You were supposed to be one of the most loyal. So why is your name here? He ran the name through the organization's internal database, confirming Luca's position as one of Sophia's most trusted. Alex's suspicion grew stronger. How could someone so close to Sophia betray her like this? The more he thought about it, the more it made sense. The attacks on the organization were too coordinated, too precise, and the message, Luca's involvement, felt like a direct challenge. But Alex couldn't act immediately. He knew that making a move without being certain would be a mistake. Sophia, despite her cold, calculating nature, trusted Luca. To confront him directly would be dangerous, not only to Alex's standing within the organization, but to his own safety. He needed to gather more information, more evidence, before he could make a move. The next few days were a blur of surveillance and shadowed meetings. Alex kept a close eye on Luca, watching him from a distance, trying to piece together the puzzle. He noticed that Luca's movements were erratic, showing up at odd hours, slipping in and out of meetings with members of rival organizations. More than once, Alex observed him having hushed, secretive conversations with people who shouldn't have been involved with the organization at all. Each time, Luca's face betrayed a sense of guilt, a fear of being caught. One evening, after a particularly long day, Alex found himself sitting in a dark corner of a bar, waiting for Luca to arrive. When Luca stepped inside, he didn't notice Alex, who had been deliberately keeping his distance. Luca ordered a drink and sat down with a stranger, someone Alex recognized as a competitor from a rival faction. "I know what you're planning, Luca," Alex whispered to himself as he watched the conversation unfold. "You're in way too deep." The conversation was low and hurried, but Alex could still make out the words. Luca was negotiating with the rival faction, offering them critical information about the organization's upcoming shipment of weapons. He wasn't just betraying Sophia, he was selling them out. As the night wore on, Alex grew more and more agitated. This wasn't just about sabotage anymore. Luca was a traitor, yes, but what he was selling had the potential to bring down everything Sophia had worked for. Alex felt the weight of the situation. If he acted too quickly, he would risk tipping off Luca, but if he waited too long, the organization would be finished. It was a delicate game of cat and mouse, and Alex knew the stakes were higher than ever. When Luca finally left, Alex followed him, careful not to be seen. He trailed him through the streets, his mind racing with options. He could confront Luca, force him to admit his treachery, but that would raise suspicions about his own loyalty. Or he could go to Sophia, but that would be an admission that he had been investigating her inner circle. In the end, Alex knew there was only one thing he could do: gather irrefutable evidence. The next morning, Alex's phone rang. It was Sophia's voice, cold and direct as always. "Meet me at the usual place." Alex's heart raced. He knew what this meant. Sophia had sensed something was wrong, and she was calling him in to figure out what was going on. He couldn't delay any longer. The investigation into Luca and the traitor needed to be finished, and fast. He had to confront the truth, even if it meant everything falling apart. Sophia's office was as cold and sterile as ever. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "What do you have for me, Alex?" she asked, her eyes locking onto his. "I know you've been looking into the attacks. What did you find?" Alex hesitated. He had no choice but to tell her the truth. "It's Luca. He's been working with a rival faction. He's been selling us out, Sophia." Sophia's expression didn't change, but Alex saw the flicker of something in her eyes. Suspicion, anger, maybe even betrayal. "You're sure?" she asked. Her voice clipped. Alex nodded. "I've been following him. He's been meeting with them regularly, giving them our shipments. This isn't just sabotage, it's treason." Sophia leaned back in her chair, her fingers steepled. "I see," she said quietly, her voice betraying nothing. "What are you going to do about it?" Alex's eyes narrowed. "I'm going to deal with him, but first I need to know something." He paused, taking a breath. "Was this part of your plan, Sophia? Were you behind the attacks?" Sophia's eyes flashed, but she maintained her composure. "You think I orchestrated this?" she said, her voice rising slightly. "I don't need to destroy my own organization to regain control. I have other ways." Alex felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He wasn't sure if he believed her. She had always been a woman of power, manipulating people and events for her own gain. But if she was telling the truth, this meant Luca was acting alone. Or was he? The days that followed were filled with tension. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this than just Luca's betrayal. Was he really working alone? Or had he been manipulated by someone else? As Alex continued his investigation, he began to notice a pattern in the way the sabotage had been executed. It wasn't just about profit or power, it was about control. Someone wanted to destabilize the organization, but for what purpose? Alex had a choice to make. He could confront Sophia about the possibility that she was using him, or he could align himself with her to destroy the rival faction together. He was torn. Sophia had given him a chance for revenge, but at what cost? How far would he be willing to go to secure his own future in her world? The lines between ally and enemy were blurred, and Alex knew that whatever choice he made would have consequences, either for the organization or for his own soul. As the investigation deepened, the truth began to unravel. Alex realized that in Sophia's world, everyone was expendable, even him. The attacks on the organization were no longer rumors. They had become reality. The first strike hit a critical warehouse, one of their main hubs for smuggling arms and ammunition into the black market. The warehouse had been burned to the ground in a series of carefully timed explosions that left the authorities baffled. Alex arrived at the scene to find the charred remains of what was once a highly secure facility. The fire was still smoldering, the acrid smell of burning steel and rubber thick in the air. "Who did this?" Alex demanded, looking at the grim faces of the few survivors, their eyes wide with shock. "Doesn't make sense, Alex. They knew exactly where to hit," one of the men whispered, his voice shaky. "It was too precise." The warehouse was gone, and with it, a massive chunk of their operation. The question lingered in Alex's mind. How could they have known exactly where to strike? It wasn't just an external attack. It had the marks of an inside job. When he returned to Sophia's headquarters later that night, the tension was palpable. The attack had thrown them all off balance. But for Alex, the real battle was unfolding within the walls of the organization. Sophia stood in front of a large map, her finger tracing the red dots marking their key sites. The map looked like a battlefield, and Alex wasn't sure if he was still an ally or just a pawn on her board. "Who did this, Sophia?" Alex's voice was calm, but the fury was there, simmering beneath the surface. Sophia didn't look up immediately. She seemed unfazed, her calm demeanor at odds with the chaos that had just transpired. When she did speak, it was in the same cool, detached tone. "It's not about who did it, Alex. It's about how we respond." "But who is behind it?" Alex's patience was fraying. He needed answers, not cryptic orders. Sophia finally turned to face him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You'll find out soon enough, but first we deal with the fallout." It was clear to Alex that her priorities were elsewhere. She wasn't concerned about the attack as much as she was about the next move. It wasn't just the warehouse that had been hit. The sabotage had spread. Intelligence reports were being leaked, operations were being compromised, and they were losing ground fast. Alex had been working with her long enough to know that this wasn't just about recovery. This was a calculated play, one that Sophia had orchestrated. Alex's suspicions grew that night as they began to discuss strategy. The more Sophia spoke, the more he realized that she had already prepared for this disruption. The way she spoke of her enemies, the way she shifted the blame, it all felt rehearsed. Was she controlling the situation, or was she the one being controlled? The next few days saw a series of smaller attacks, disruptions that all seemed too coordinated to be coincidental. Their weapons shipments were delayed, communications were intercepted, and a series of false reports had almost led them to act against their own people. But the one event that really pushed Alex over the edge was when he discovered an encrypted message in the organization's internal network. It was a direct command to one of Sophia's trusted lieutenants, Luca, detailing plans to strike another facility. But it wasn't just sabotage, it was a detailed plot to discredit and destabilize the leadership of the organization. Alex's heart raced as he decrypted the message. He knew this name Luca. He was Sophia's right-hand man, her most loyal enforcer. But this message painted a different picture. Alex tracked Luca's movements over the next few days, his suspicions deepening as he followed him to a hidden meeting with a known rival faction. They exchanged briefcases, a clear transaction of power. It was then that Alex realized what was happening. Luca wasn't just taking orders from Sophia. He was working with the rivals to bring down the entire organization. Later that night, in the stark coldness of Sophia's office, Alex confronted her. "Luca is behind the attacks. He's working with the rival faction. He's been selling us out." Sophia didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned back in her chair, her gaze piercing. "You're sure of this?" Alex slammed the encrypted message onto her desk, watching her closely. "He's one of your most trusted, Sophia. How could you not know?" Sophia's eyes flashed with something, anger, maybe even a hint of fear. But she quickly masked it, replacing it with her usual control. "You think I'm unaware of my own people? You think I can't control them?" she asked, her voice cold, almost mocking. Alex's jaw tightened. "You're telling me this is just a coincidence? That everything falling apart right now is just bad luck?" Sophia stood up, her hands clasped behind her back as she approached him slowly. "No, Alex," she said, her voice low and measured. "It's not a coincidence. It's a strategy." Alex's eyes narrowed. "A strategy? To bring down your own people?" Sophia's gaze met his, and for a moment, The two were locked in an unspoken battle of wills. Sometimes, she said softly, her voice taking on a darker tone, to rebuild, you must first destroy. Alex felt a chill run through him. The walls around him, the walls he had trusted, were starting to crumble. What are you saying? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sophia didn't answer directly. Instead, she turned away, her back to him as she looked out the window. You're part of the plan, Alex. You always have been, whether you realize it or not. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. She had been using him all along, setting him up as a pawn in her game of power. He wasn't part of the plan to take down the enemies of the organization. He was part of the plan to take down the organization itself, to use him as a distraction while she moved behind the scenes to eliminate her true threats. The days that followed were filled with tense silence. The relationship between Alex and Sophia, already fragile, now seemed irreparably broken. The more Alex dug into the conspiracy, the more he realized that Sophia's role in the attacks was not as innocent as she made it seem. But confronting her was dangerous. She was too powerful, too calculating, and Alex knew that revealing what he knew could be his undoing. As the tension between them continued to rise, Alex began to question his next move. Could he confront Sophia directly? Could he break free from her control without losing everything? Or would he be forced to play along with her twisted game, at the risk of losing himself? One night, as they sat in the war room, mapping out the next move, Alex couldn't keep silent anymore. You've been manipulating me from the start, he said, his voice a mixture of anger and disbelief. Sophia looked up at him, her eyes cold and emotionless. You think I need to manipulate you, Alex? You're here because you have a purpose, and you've been useful. But just like everyone else, you'll outlive your usefulness. The words stung more than Alex expected. He had been a pawn in her game all along, and now with the final pieces falling into place, he realized that he had no choice but to fight back. He knew that the only way out was to confront Sophia, but the cost would be high. He wasn't just fighting for the organization anymore. He was fighting for his freedom, his soul. The question was, could he win this battle without losing everything he had left? The war for control was no longer just about power. It was about survival. And for Alex, the final choice was clear. Fight back or disappear into Sophia's web forever. Alex sat at his desk, surrounded by files and encrypted messages. For days he had been sifting through them, each discovery darker than the last. He had always suspected something was off with Sophia, but the truth was far worse than he'd imagined. Sophia wasn't the mastermind behind the chaos. She was merely a pawn in a much larger game. The true architect of their downfall was someone Alex hadn't expected. Richard Haight. The documents revealed Haight's name. He was behind the attacks, manipulating everything from the shadows. Haight had once been a partner of Sophia's, one of the original founders of the organization. He had disappeared from the scene years ago, supposedly laying low. But the files told a different story. Haight had been pulling the strings, using Sophia as his front to manipulate the organization and its members. Richard Haight, Alex muttered, eyes scanning the files. You've been here all along. He stood up, pacing back and forth. How could both he and Sophia have missed this? Sophia had been a key player, but she was being controlled, and Alex had been right in the middle of it all. Haight had used her to eliminate rivals and expand his influence. But why had he stayed hidden for so long? What did he stand to gain from all of this? Haight's true goal wasn't just money or power. It was control over the entire criminal network. He had orchestrated everything from behind the scenes, ensuring that Sophia would rise to power only to be his tool. His grand plan was now clear. Haight wanted total dominance, and Sophia was just a means to an end. The realization hit Alex hard. If Haight was the one pulling the strings, then everything he had believed in, everything Sophia had told him, was a lie. She had been used, and so had he. The entire organization had been a facade, a front for Haight to rebuild his empire. Alex's trust in Sophia was crumbling. She had lied to him about her role, and now he could see just how deep the betrayal went. The more Alex investigated, the more he understood how deeply Haight had entrenched himself within the organization. Sophia, blinded by ambition and manipulation, had played her part without realizing she was being controlled by a ghost from her past. Alex was no longer sure if Sophia had ever been an ally or just another piece in Hate's game. Determined to confront Sophia, Alex waited until they were alone in her office. The weight of the evidence in his hands felt heavier than ever. He had to confront her, but he wasn't sure how she would react. He couldn't afford to be wrong about this. "Sophia," Alex began, placing the files on her desk. "I know who's behind everything. It's Hate." Sophia's face didn't change. She took a slow breath, clearly not surprised by his accusation. "Hate," she repeated, her voice betraying nothing. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Alex said firmly, pointing at the files. "He's the one pulling the strings, not you. You've been manipulated, Sophia." For the first time in their entire relationship, Alex saw a flicker of vulnerability in Sophia's eyes, but it was gone almost as quickly as it appeared. "I know Hate's name, Alex," she said, her voice calm, but her hands clenched on the desk. "But you don't understand. This isn't just about him. It's about what we can do with his influence." Alex's mind reeled. "What we can do? You've been playing his game the entire time, haven't you? Everything we've done, every decision we made, you've been under his control." Sophia stood up, her expression hardening. "I didn't have a choice, Alex. Hate has been waiting for the right moment to strike. I've been trying to outplay him. But now," she paused, her voice quieter, almost regretful. "Now we have to act before it's too late." Alex's suspicion deepened, but now the situation had changed. Sophia was no longer the enemy. She had been manipulated just as much as he had. But the fact that she had been willing to play Hate's game to this extent left a bitter taste in his mouth. Could he trust her now? Was she still playing her own game? Or was she truly trying to take down Hate from within? "You've been controlled," Alex said, his voice cold. "But why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you warn me when you knew the stakes?" Sophia stepped forward, her voice softening. "Because I didn't know who to trust, Alex. I trusted you. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how to explain the danger we were in. If I had, you would have turned on me." Alex took a deep breath, trying to process everything. "And now what? We're supposed to join forces and take him down together. After everything he's done." Sophia looked him squarely in the eye. "I never wanted this, Alex. I've played my part because it was the only way to survive. But now we don't have a choice. Hate is more dangerous than you realize. If we don't act fast, he'll destroy everything we've worked for." Alex's mind raced. He had never been this conflicted before. Sophia wasn't the villain he had once thought her to be, but could he really work with her? Could he trust her again after everything she had done? But then again, if Hate was the true enemy, what choice did they have? Sophia had been using him, yes, but was she now genuinely trying to fix the situation? Was there a way to undo the damage Hate had caused? Or would their efforts only play further into his hands? Alex was faced with a choice. Expose Hate, but at what cost? Was Sophia right? Could they win this fight, or was it already too late? He couldn't help but wonder. If they took down Hate, what would be left of the organization? Would it be worth saving? Could he really break free from the world Sophia had dragged him into? In the coming days, the tension between Alex and Sophia only grew. They had to act quickly, but Alex knew that defeating Hate wouldn't be as simple as working together. The lines between ally and enemy had blurred too much. The true battle was no longer just about defeating Hate. It was about whether Alex could escape this world of manipulation and power plays before it consumed him entirely. As the weight of his decision bore down on him, Alex knew that whatever he chose would change everything. Would he continue to fight for revenge in this tangled web of manipulation, or would he try to break free and start over? The answer wasn't clear, but Alex knew one thing. He had no choice but to make a decision soon, because the world around him was rapidly falling apart. The air in the abandoned warehouse was thick with tension. The once powerful organization that Alex and Sophia had spent years building now teetered on the brink of collapse. Betrayal had shaken their foundation, and with Hate's betrayal revealed, the stakes were higher than ever. Both sides of the war were fractured, allies turned enemies. And trust, a commodity they once had in abundance, was now a rare and dangerous thing. Alex and Sophia stood at opposite ends of the room, the remnants of their bond hanging by a thread. There had been too many lies, too many betrayals, but now they had no choice. The battle wasn't just about power, it was about survival. Sophia was calm as always, her eyes scanning the room. She was calculating, assessing their dwindling options. The few loyalists she had left were scattered, hiding, waiting for the right moment to strike. She knew Alex had gathered his own allies too, and neither of them was naive enough to think they could simply walk away from this without a fight. "You don't have to do this, Alex," Sophia said, her voice almost pleading. "We can still fix this. We can still win. We can take back what's ours." Alex's gaze never left hers. "Fix this? We've lost everything." "You're right about one thing, Sophia. It's too late for fixing. The organization is gone, and so are we." He took a slow step forward, his face hard with resolve. "We've been playing this game for too long, but now there's no more playing. We either finish this now, or we both get buried under the wreckage." Sophia's lips curled into a tight smile, but there was no humor in it. "You're still so sure of yourself, Alex. Even now. But you know as well as I do, we're both too far gone. We either end this fight with one of us standing, or we both fall." Alex looked around the warehouse, the remnants of what had once been their base of operations. It felt surreal to be here, fighting against the woman who had been his ally, his confidant. Yet despite everything, he knew this was the only way to survive. Hate was gone. The organization was in ruins, and Sophia had played her part in their downfall. "Do you really think you can take control of what's left, Sophia?" Alex asked, his voice low. "All of this, your empire, your power, it's nothing now. You've torn everything apart, and for what? To stand at the top of a pile of ashes?" Sophia's expression hardened, but her voice betrayed a flicker of something deeper. Regret, perhaps. "The empire was never the goal, Alex. It was always about control, about shaping the world the way I wanted it. And now I have to do what's necessary to take back control." Alex's fist clenched. He had always known Sophia was driven by power, but hearing her admit it so plainly still stung. He had hoped at some point that they could find a way to make things right. But now, with the entire organization crumbling around them, he knew that hope was gone. The first shots rang out suddenly, breaking the tense silence. Sophia's loyalists had made their move, ambushing Alex's group as they approached the far side of the warehouse. Alex dove to the ground instinctively, grabbing for his weapon as gunfire echoed through the space. Chaos erupted as both sides fought fiercely, knowing that this was the final showdown. There would be no retreat, no truce, only the fight for control. Sophia moved with lethal precision, taking down enemies with a calculated coldness. She was a force to be reckoned with, and Alex knew that to defeat her, he would have to be just as ruthless. But even in the midst of battle, Alex couldn't help but wonder, could they really be fighting for the same thing? Had their paths diverged so far that they were no longer even on the same side? In the heat of the battle, Alex found himself face to face with Sophia. They stood momentarily still, surrounded by the wreckage of their final fight. Sophia's eyes were cold, unyielding. "You can't stop me, Alex," she said, her voice steady. "You've never been able to. Not in the beginning, and not now." Alex met her gaze, his jaw tight. "Maybe I've never been able to stop you, but I can end this. I can take it all down. If I have to destroy the last remnants of this world we built, then so be it." For a long moment, they just stared at each other, the weight of their shared history pressing down on them. There had once been trust, once a bond between them, but now it was nothing more than a faded memory. Sophia's expression softened, ever so slightly. "You're right," she said almost in a whisper. "We can't go back. We never could. But if we're going to end this, we end it on our terms." Alex nodded, but in his heart, he knew it wasn't just about their terms anymore. It was about survival. The fight wasn't just for control, it was for the future of both of them. The final battle raged on, but eventually it became clear that the end was near. Sophia's forces were dwindling, and Alex's group was gaining ground. But it wasn't just about who won the fight, it was about what came next. The decisions made in these final moments would determine the future of the organization, if it could even be called that anymore. "Do you think you'll win this, Alex?" Sophia asked, her voice a mixture of defiance and something else, perhaps regret. "Do you really believe this is over?" Alex's eyes met hers, the weight of everything they had been through reflected in his gaze. "It's over, Sophia. Not just for us, but for the organization. There's nothing left to save." In the aftermath, the organization lay in ruins, its power shattered beyond repair. Both Alex and Sophia had won, but at what cost? The destruction was irreversible, and neither of them could escape the consequences of their choices. Now, with the war over, Alex was left to confront the aftermath. What would he do now? He had fought for revenge, for survival, but now, with everything destroyed, what was left? Sophia, too, was left with nothing but the hollow remnants of her ambition. She had won, but in the end, it had cost her everything. The question was, could either of them find redemption, or were they destined to live in the shadow of the choices they had made? The final battle had left the organization in ruins. What had once been a powerful criminal empire now lay in tatters, fractured into rival factions fighting for control. The betrayal and manipulation had caused its collapse, and the power vacuum was immediate. Alex stood in the middle of the chaos, realizing the world they had built was irreparably shattered. This is it," Alex muttered, surveying the wreckage. "Everything's gone." The rival factions were already moving in. With the central leadership gone, the chaos was ripe for exploitation. Some groups were eager to take over, while others sought vengeance for the losses they had endured. In the midst of it all, Alex couldn't shake the thought. Would the organization ever truly recover, or was it beyond saving? Sophia, now standing beside him, looked at the same destruction. "We should have seen this coming," she said quietly. "The trust was always going to break. I pushed too hard." Alex's eyes narrowed. "You pushed us into a war, but it's not just you, Sophia. We both lost. This, all of this." He gestured to the crumbling structure around them. "It was never going to last." Sophia's jaw clenched. "I thought we could rebuild. I thought we could take control, but the cost was too high." Alex's voice was cold, filled with years of disappointment. "Control? All we've done is destroy everything we had." The rival factions, sensing the disarray, moved swiftly to seize power. Alex knew that they weren't the only ones left standing in the ruins. The betrayers, those who had shifted alliances, would soon rise again. "I never thought it would come to this," Alex said. "The end of everything we fought for." Sophia's eyes darkened. "It's not over. Some of them, those who betrayed us, they'll try to take over. They won't just let this go." The silence between them grew heavy. The weight of their decisions, the lives lost, and the shattered dream of rebuilding the organization bore down on both of them. They had won the battle, but lost everything else in the process. "Where do we go from here?" Alex asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sophia shook her head, her voice tinged with regret. "I don't know, Alex. I don't know anymore." The world of shadows they had known was gone. The organization was over. Alex and Sophia had both won, but at a cost they couldn't undo. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: they could never go back. The ruins of the organization lay before Alex and Sophia, their empire shattered by betrayal, ambition, and the unrelenting pursuit of power. The world they had once controlled now seemed distant, a fading memory, leaving them with little but the weight of their actions and decisions. As they stood together, the silence between them was heavy, filled with the knowledge that their world had forever changed. Alex stared out over the city, his mind racing through everything that had happened, the lies, the manipulation, the choices he had made. "So, what now?" he asked quietly, his voice filled with uncertainty. The question had no easy answer. The war they had fought for power had destroyed the very thing they had both sought to protect. What was left for them now? Sophia, standing beside him, was a shadow of the woman she had once been. Her eyes, once sharp with ambition, now seemed distant, lost in thought. "I don't know," she admitted. The world we built is gone. The trust we had is shattered. Can we even start over? Alex didn't answer immediately. He had always been a man of action, but now for the first time, he realized that the war was over. What mattered now wasn't fighting for survival or revenge. It was finding a way to rebuild their lives. But the question remained, could they? Sophia's voice broke the silence again. Do you think we can find a way out of this world, Alex? A life outside the organization? Alex looked at her, his eyes hard but searching. I don't know, he said, his voice filled with a quiet bitterness. We both lost everything in this fight, our trust, our sense of purpose, and the organization we fought to build. But maybe we can still find a way. Maybe we can find a way to live outside the shadows. But it won't be easy, not after everything. Sophia nodded slowly, her gaze turning to the horizon. Maybe, but I've learned something in all this. Power is an illusion, and trust, it's the most dangerous thing you can give someone. Alex's lips tightened. You're right. We both trusted the wrong people. We were used, manipulated by the very people we thought we could trust. He paused, thinking of all the sacrifices, the lies, and the betrayals. Maybe that's the real lesson here. Power, control, they only lead to more destruction. And at the end, what's left? What's left for us? The ruins of the organization mirrored their inner turmoil. The truth was, the group would never be the same. It was a shadow of its former self. Rivals were already trying to seize what remained of its power, but it would likely crumble entirely. Without Sophia's control and the loss of its most loyal members, there was no foundation left to hold it together. Alex realized that the organization was beyond repair. We've both burned everything down, he said quietly. The organization, our trust in each other, it's all gone. Maybe it was doomed from the start. Sophia's face tightened, and she took a step closer to him. Maybe it was, she murmured. But maybe that's how it had to end. The world of power and betrayal is corrupt, and we're not immune to its destruction. Alex and Sophia stood at the crossroads, their paths now divergent. They had both paid a heavy price, and neither of them was the same. The lessons of betrayal and power would stay with them forever, shaping how they saw the world. Could they find redemption, or had the choices they made irreparably changed them? The future remained uncertain, but the truth was undeniable. Power and loyalty, when mixed with manipulation, always left a scar. Alex's final words to Sophia lingered in the air. We can walk away from this, try to find something new, but the world we came from, it's not something we can escape from completely. Sophia met his gaze, a flicker of something in her eyes. Maybe we can't escape it, but maybe we can choose a different path, a path we control, but we have to let go of the past first. Alex nodded. The war for power had ended, but the battle for their future had just begun. And as they walked away from the ruins, the shadow of their past would always follow them. As the dust settled, Alex and Sophia stood amidst the ruins of their world. The organization was gone, shattered by their own hands. The power they had fought for was now meaningless, and the consequences of their actions weighed heavily on them both. They had won, but at a price neither could ignore. The question of what came next lingered between them. Could they rebuild their lives, or were they forever bound to the ghosts of their past? In the end, the only thing left was the silence of their choices and the uncertain future that awaited them.